This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
Hello, football fans, and welcome to the Onside Kick. My name is Ricky Widmer, and this is where I'd usually say, as always, I'm joined by Mark Weber.
Dub them ease.
Mark's not here. You can hear there's Sean Anderson.
Hello.
And Brandon Swanson's in studio with me.
Hey.
And you guys get to join me this week for the Onside Kick because Mark is currently on his way back from Puerto Rico.
Such a rotten bastard, you know.
He didn't take us with.
I bet he didn't even get a tan.
No, he didn't take us
burned.
with. That's the one part. I don't think he burned because I think Mark's Cuban.
Really?
Yeah, he is Cuban. Yeah, that's the same look I had when I found out he's Cuban.
I didn't know Mark was Cuban.
He's part Cuban.
He probably tanned.
Did you know he's Cuban?
No, I mean, I assumed.
No,
But you always have to assume.
when he told me, he's like, yeah, I'm part Cuban. I went, really? Because if you look at Mark, he doesn't look, he does not look like he's got the Cuban blood in him, but this is...
Those are the ones you have to watch out for.
I am glad you guys are here with me because this is the week that I've been waiting for. From now until the beginning of August.
The week of June 7th? Hell of a week.
June and July, we are officially going through our divisional previews each and every week, and we're starting it off with the North divisions in the AFC. So the AFC North this week, how this is going to work, we're going to go through each team, kind of talk about each one, tell what we think about it, and then at the very end of the podcast, we're going to have kind of our predictions, who's going to win the division, who could be a wild card team from the division. But let's start with the bottom feeder, the team that had the number 2 overall pick in the draft, traded it away, traded down, gave it to the Philadelphia Eagles, and that is the Cleveland Browns. And the first thing I want to ask you guys, and I feel like we have to touch with the Browns, is Robert Griffin III. Is he going to be do they finally have the quarterback to lead them somewhere?
No, Luke McCown's going to be the quarterback by week 4. Whether RG3 gets hurt or he shows his true colors of not being a good quarterback anymore.
Which happens first, injury or true colors?
True colors.
Okay.
I think he's going to throw like 4 picks in his second game. I think he's going to be rusty. I just don't see him actually being a contributor to this Cleveland Browns team. I think Josh McCown will be starting by week 2, and I wouldn't be surprised if they did bring in someone else or they did promote their rookie in Cody Kessler. I look at this team and I don't think they're going to be thriving with Robert Griffin at the helm. I think Cody Kessler might be starting by week 7. I think McCown and Griffin they're good backups, but they're nothing better than that. And I don't think Cody Kessler's that good as well. I just think this Browns team doesn't have their quarterback yet, whether it's Griffin, McCown, or Kessler, and they probably have to wait next year for that.
Well, this is the most important season. I would say the most important season for Robert Griffin just for himself, because coming over from Washington, that was a shit situation. Yeah, he had a great rookie season. It's like, holy crap, the Redskins may actually have a quarterback. He gets injured at the end of that rookie season. Then from there on, it's just drama between him and Mike Shanahan. You get Snyder involved. Now we're hearing stories about how the owner and Snyder was always in RG3's ear and kind of driving him to make the changes and be as combative as he was with the coaching staff. And I mean, RG3, like I said, this is his most important season because he has to do well. However, I feel like it's a good thing that he finally has a head coach in Hugh Jackson, or the Wolverine as we call him here on the Onside Kick, that he has the kind of quarterback whisper, I would say, in Hugh Jackson.
I look at Robert Griffin. I agree that it's good for him getting away, but I just don't think. I think it's done now. I mean, he's 26 already. His best years are way behind him. I mean, that injury is obviously still hurting him. He's not the same guy he used to be.
Well, I think I'm gonna disagree with you, because look at what we saw with Alex Smith in San Francisco. Terrible situation. Well, he comes in. He's gonna be this savior. He comes in, ends up being a horrible situation out there in San Francisco. Goes through about every single offensive coordinator you could, goes through multiple head coaches. No one's helping him. When he finally gets it, goes to crap. Nothing went well for him. Then he goes over to Kansas City, and he's not Tom Brady, but he's a lot better. He revived his career. And sometimes
he was 29 when he went over to Kansas City, too.
And sometimes that's all you need. and I think it's important to note the age because you noted that RG3 is 26. RG3, I'm not saying that he's going to be any better. I'm not saying he's going to be their savior, but I am saying that there's an opportunity there for him to get better, and I think there's opportunity, maybe not for the fans, but definitely for the coaching staff and the people who are around him every day, for them to have an opportunity to have a lot of hope in what RG3 can do, because it was a bad situation in Washington, and hopefully now he can have himself a good situation, fresh start, clean slate that he needs. And hopefully he has that in Cleveland.
See, the one thing, though, with Alex Smith, though, is that he was coming back from a shoulder. I mean, he had a lot of shoulder problems. And the one thing that he didn't really rely on was the deep ball. Alex Smith is a very good, check down passer, and he uses his mobility to escape the pocket. With RG3, I mean, his knee is what really hurts him, and he really thrived coming in on using the deep ball and his mobility. I mean, without the legs, he's not the same quarterback. He's got to change his game, and I don't see him changing his game.
Well, and here's the thing. That's why I'm going to bring back in Hugh Jackson. Is I kind of feel like Hugh's going to be the main one to say, okay, this is how we're going to use Robert, and he's going to use RG3 similarly to the way he used Andy Dalton in Cincinnati. Was Andy Dalton, was he a huge runner, or did he use his arm? They used his arm, and I mean, if Jackson can take some of that, of course, for every quarterback, you got to tailor a system to that quarterback. You can't just say, well, this system, I'm going to put any quarterback in there, and it's going to work, because what one system could do for Tom Brady or for Andy Dalton won't work for RG3 or Jay Cutler or Aaron Rodgers. You got to tailor it to that quarterback. And if I'm a Cleveland Browns fan, I have all the confidence in the world in Hugh Jackson, because he's shown last year he's competent as a kind of offensive coordinator, now already as the head coach, already making the moves that you need to make, especially in the draft. And one of the draft picks that they made, Corey Coleman. And this is a guy that, do we think that he's a guy that can help RG3 in the passing game, kind of taking off pressure from everything that's going to be surrounding him after he said, no pressure, no diamonds? I
mean, with Corey Coleman, though, I mean, it's only Corey Coleman, basically, for the wide receiving core. I know they drafted like 5 wide receivers this year, but, I look at this team, and outside of Coleman, there's no one really that I'm really impressed with.
Barnage.
Well, I mean, I'm talking wide receivers mainly. I know
we're gonna call him a wide receiver because he gets probably the stats of what a wide receiver should get, but
is this a Jimmy Graham discussion? I'm not I'm not a tight end. I'm a pass catcher.
Well, Jimmy Graham may not be too much after this injury that he had. Fucker screwed me over in fantasy.
It
really did. I love you, Jimmy, but gosh,
that last year he was in New Orleans. Traded him at the right time to get Gronk. But go ahead with what you were saying, Sean.
I mean, if you do throw Barnage in there, I mean, yeah, then you got 2 guys that you can really throw off to it. But I mean, even if you look in the backfield, I mean, Duke Johnson is decent out of the backfield catching wise, but Crowell isn't anything to write home about.
Duke Johnson has to be. To me, he's got to be the main back, because I'm not sold on Isaiah Crowell, because there's a reason why in way too early mock drafts, and even in my way too early mock draft, there's a reason why people are already saying, we haven't even gotten to the season, and we're already saying Leonard Fournette is going to be the draft pick for the Browns if he's there.
Okay, but there's a difference between Leonard Fournette, who is a Heisman hopeful, who runs over defenses, and then there's Isaiah Crowell, who's a decent,
I'm just saying, like, that's the running backs you have, to where we are already, like, we're all already looking to next season with them. And I mean, as of right now, I'm getting this from ourlads.com, their latest depth chart for the Browns as of June 1st. Your first 2 wide receivers on the depth chart as of right now entering OTAs, Corey Coleman and Marlon Moore. That is it. Then you've got Ricardo Lewis and Andrew Hawkins right behind them at 3 and 4. This is going to be an interesting team, because I feel like, Sean, you're not too far off with the will Josh McCown feel, or will Hugh Jackson, I should say, feel the pressure to start McCown sooner rather than later, because early in the season, RG3, I feel like, may be pressured to make big plays, and he's not going to have the help around him.
Guys, here's the thing. There's no pressure in Cleveland. You're going to be bad. You're going to be bad.
But RG3 even said no pressure, no diamonds.
There's no pressure here. Honestly, for Cleveland right now, you should hope to be bad, because if you're bad, that means then you don't have to worry about Johnny Manziel. Manziel is gone. That drama is over, at least with Cleveland. If you're bad, you're like, thank God, at least we were just bad this year and we didn't have all this drama. Cleveland is not going to be good. Not this year. They've got to temper their expectations. They have too many question marks. They have too many small pieces. It's like a rebuilding year. You are rebuilding for Cleveland.
They've been rebuilding for about. The last time they went to the playoffs was 2008 with Derek Anderson as the quarterback and Braylon Andrews as their main threat.
And they were still trying to rebuild there, but they were really wondering afterwards, how did we get here? This is supposed to be our rebuilding year. But I think that when you look at it, really, the Cleveland Browns, Ricky, you said it, they don't have the depth. They don't have even that one wide receiver where you go, you know what, at least they've got, like for the Bengals, who we'll talk about, at least they got A.J. Green. No, you don't even have nobody.
No,
you're
putting all that pressure on Coleman.
But see, that's the thing. You're not going to put that pressure on Coleman because but I think really, if you're the Cleveland Browns and you don't put any pressure out there, you just let these guys play. Let's see what you got. Let's see what you can do. Go out there and fight. As long as you're in some games and you go 5-11, whoop-de-doo.
That's not going to happen. You could. They're not going to be in games, and they're not going to be 5-11.
You very well could be.
Here's
There's a difference when you just let, like, you can say go let them play, and you know they could be like kids playing recess football, but I mean there's
playing in recess football could get to 5-11.
I don't know about that.
We talking the longest yard? We're gonna do some schoolyard bullshit out there.
Well,
is that what
the
we're
longest
gonna do?
yard, school time, recess, and prison football are two completely different things, Ricky. I didn't know if you knew that. So,
well, no, I'm just talking about.
There's no Bill Goldberg coming out of the field for.
No,
Ricky's never been.
I'm talking about the scene where it's like
school?
it's raining and no, I've never been to school.
Oh.
Never been to school. Don't know what it's like. But let's move over to the defense. And I mean, looking at the free agencies that they lost and gained for the defense, Carlos Dansby, Craig Robertson, two linebackers they lose them to the Bengals and Saints respectively, but they do bring in Demario Davis, linebacker from the New York Jets, and also in the draft they get guys like Scooby Wright, who probably isn't going to start, but he's going to add something to the inside depth-wise, and they get Emmanuel Ogbah, who fucking absolute steal at the end of the first round, really, because the Patriots didn't have a first-round pick. Defensively, I kind of look at it, though, and I go, okay, besides Ogbah and Davis and then Danny Shelton in the middle of your line, this isn't going to be a good defense, and there's going to be teams that rip you apart.
Oh, 100%. I mean, Joe Hayden was fantastic in his prime, but I mean, it looks like he's coming out of his prime. Barkevius Mingo never even lived up to his potential. Paul Kruger's getting old. I mean, the only guy I'm really excited to watch on this team is Danny Shelton. I really want to see what this kid can do, and I really think
he can do in his second year.
Yeah, I really want to. No, yeah, I know. I want to see what he can do, and I want to see if he can actually be a force in the middle for this defense. I mean, I look at Shelton. He was great coming out of college, but I don't know if he didn't really have the greatest of years. I think he was dealing with some injury problems as well. So I mean, I think I'm really looking for Shelton to step up, and maybe he can be a lone bright side or lone bright spot on this defense for the Cleveland Browns. But outside of this, I mean, there's nothing really. I mean, I hope Joe Hayden bounces back, but I don't think it's going to happen. For Cleveland, again, I mean, this is just the whole thing. I mean, the defense looks more bleak than the offense, honestly, to me. I just don't really see a whole lot happening, you know, and to be able to stay in games, you got to be able to, play defense. But that's one thing I think that Hugh Jackson really brings to the table is he's a defensive mind, I think. More so than even offense. So I think that's one thing that he might be able to help craft is that defense there in Cleveland.
Well, and this is the one thing, and this is kind of my last point on the Browns before we kind of move on, is if you're a Cleveland Brown fan listening to this podcast, don't expect this to be a overnight change. It's not going to be. We already saw it. Think of it from the draft on, from last year's draft that we just had on. It's now a changing point. And Hugh was able to come in, kind of put his fingerprints on that draft. You're not going to get the free agencies you got before him. he wasn't even the head coach yet before you were already talking to free agents early on. So he's not going to be able to do that until after this next season. I wouldn't be too angry, though, if you guys slide again. However, it's all about what strides and what positives we can take from this season, unless there's fans out there that think the Browns are just going to shock the world.
And then are you a Cleveland fan that's saying lose every game? We need some more draft picks to get some talent.
We need either Leonard. Here's what Cleveland Browns
we
fans
need
should
Leonard
be
Fournette and we need Deshaun Watson.
That's what I was just going to say, because you know who's going to be a bad team that's going to help out the Browns? The Philadelphia Eagles. But we're going to save that for the
a rainy
end of
day.
July.
We're going to save that for a rainy day.
Let's move on, though, to the next team, the Baltimore Ravens. And, Brandon, this was the team that you previewed on our individual team videos. And
yeah, I did something like that.
with this team, I look at it, and the losses that I see, I mean, they're not really huge losses, but you've got Osemele, the guard, going over to Oakland. We've got Darryl Smith, the linebacker. He got cut. He's now in Tampa Bay. Chris Givens is now in Philly. And Courtney Upshaw is actually going to be in Atlanta. And, I mean, if you look at the things they're bringing in from free agency, Benjamin Watton to play some tight end for him. Mike Wallace coming over from my Minnesota Vikings. We also have got Eric Weddle coming over from San Diego. Brandon, we'll start with you because you did the team preview for the Ravens. What's going to be what do you think the biggest strength for the Ravens is going to be in 2016?
Well, I said this yesterday, and the biggest strength could be, and the key really to this team, I think, is Joe Flacco. I mean, you pay this guy, giving him years and money to be an elite quarterback. Last year, I would say he was probably everything but. And that was, I think, a big reason why the Ravens ended at 5-11. Was it all Flacco? No. You know, a big part of it was.
Could it be Mark Trestman?
No. You know, I think that Mark Trestman's going to make any team he goes to worse. But I think that at the end of the day, the Ravens all around weren't as strong last year. I mean, I don't think that too many people would have thought that was going to happen, but they weren't. But again, I really do put a lot of it on Flacco. I mean, you're this quarterback that's supposed to be really, really good because you told people you were really, really good. Now you're getting paid like you're really, really good. Steve Smith being gone, I think, kind of hurt him because Steve Smith was having one hell of a year before he got hurt. Now that's why he's coming back because he's still hungry to play, obviously. But that's I think could be a very big strength for them. The quarterback and the wide receiver core, or it could be a big, I don't know, detractor, I think, for them.
And I know Joe Flacco only played 10 games last season. I think that disclaimer kind of needs to be there because he did miss 6 of them.
And half of his offense was hurt. I mean, the Baltimore Ravens had the most, I think them and the Chargers had the most injuries on their team.
But, I mean, you look at the state.
Does Tom Brady still do well when his team is hurt?
Well, Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback of all time. Joe Flacco is top 15 in the league right now.
But you know what I'm saying? But you know what I'm saying? I really don't like
when... In order to be great, you can't blame
you're
guys
right.
not being
you're right,
there.
Ricky.
Yeah.
And that's what I was going to say is I just don't like the whole excuse of, okay, yeah, you can't help that you're hurt. But you can help. You have to go out there and make plays for your receivers got to make plays for you, but you just as much have to make plays
especially at the quarterback position.
I mean,
you're the guy everyone looks at.
I mean, my gosh, I don't care if you're throwing to Larry, Moe, and Curly. You have got to do a good job out there. You have got to get it done because guess what? A lot of other guys do. And okay, Tom Brady, maybe a bad example because he is so good. But at the same time, if you want to be the best, act like it. You're getting paid like it. Act like it.
I think one thing that really does help him, though, is that he is bringing back a lot of receivers. I mean, you're bringing back Steve Smith, you're bringing back Kamar Aiken, you're bringing in Mike Wallace, you're bringing in Brashad Perriman if he even sees the field. I mean,
what do we expect from Mike Wallace, though? Because he kind of fell off in Minnesota.
Nothing, but
nothing. He's just a body.
But I mean, if
Wallace
you look at
was a lot in Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah.
I mean, those were his good days.
And then he went to Miami, kind of fell off. Then he went to Minnesota, where he was a dead weight.
Pittsburgh style. he could be real good. Don't expect it.
One thing with Flacco, he made his money off of throwing deep balls to Anquan Bolden, and maybe Mike Wallace can bring back that magic. But I mean, even Brashad Perriman, I mean, the rookie who did not play last year, maybe he'll even see the field. I mean, we didn't even see him last year. Even they had Chris Matthews, the one and done Super Bowl hero for the Seattle Seahawks, even though they lost that game to the Patriots. And they even have Michael Campanaro, I mean, a great slot receiver. So I mean, I look at this team, and I think they have a lot of weapons. Even bringing in Benjamin Watson, and hopefully Dennis Pitta can stay healthy. And I really like Max Williams, the tight end out of Minnesota. So I mean, I think he's got a lot of weapons to work with. And the one thing that's really hurting him is Justin Forsett. I mean, that backfield isn't that great.
And not to
guys,
just
come
add
on
to it. What?
They've got Trent Richardson.
Oh, I knew you were going to bring him up.
Goodness gracious!
Did you know he won a Heisman?
He did win.
Did you know that he's the 6th guy on the depth chart? I mean, he's gonna really do it for him.
They actually have, looking at the depth chart, they actually have 2 former Brown running backs on their depth chart in Terrence West and Trent Richardson.
Doesn't mean they're good.
And no, it means they're terrible because they played for the Browns. Sorry, Cleveland fans. We just kind of talked up your team a little bit. Now we're back to
Did we? We said they're going to be really building.
We kind of gave them hope, though, which
I don't
is
think we
kind
did.
of. I would like to hope we.
I don't think anyone has
I
hope
would like to
in Cleveland
hope
right now.
that we gave them hope, but the one thing that I mean has to be good is that if you look at their draft, look at their first pick. What did the Ravens do? They went out and got your boy Ronnie Stanley.
They went to the best football factory in Notre Dame.
Gave him some protection to say, hey, you know, you are the important part of this season. We're going to protect you, give you some offensive line help.
I mean, they have a good line as it is. I mean, again, they're just hurt. I mean, Eugene Monroe, I think, is probably the weakest spot there, but Ronnie Stanley's great, Zuda's great, Yanda's great, Wagner's great. I mean, they have good linemen there. As long as they can stay healthy, I think Flacco can be protected. And then I think, with these, bountiful amount of weapons on the outside, I think Flacco might be able to return to form. I mean, it really might rely on Mark Trestman there. I mean, I don't think Mark Trestman's that great, knowing him as a Bears fan. But maybe Flacco can hide Trestman's flaws there.
He's supposed to be the quarterback whisperer, is I believe what we were told when he came into Chicago.
The only thing I think good about Mark Trestman is probably his daughter.
Yeah.
Chloe Trestman. She really probably has to bring out the best in the Ravens players.
Well, I mean, talking about bringing out the best of players, we got to talk about bringing out the best of the D in Baltimore. And, I mean, the biggest addition for them has to be bringing over Eric Weddle, like I mentioned when we started the Ravens segment. Bringing over Eric Weddle from the Chargers kind of to bring a little bit of excitement to this backfield. That's one signing I saw and I went, I like that for Baltimore.
It's huge. I mean, Eric Weddle was probably the best defender in San Diego.
One of the best safeties in the league.
But when I was saying that, then I was kind of taken aback because it's true. But San Diego's defense is not that good.
Yeah, but San Diego, he was the best of that defense.
But Eric Weddle is one of probably the best in the league. So for Baltimore to get him, I think it's a huge addition for Baltimore. It's a huge upgrade. I think it definitely helps them. Does not hurt. Something that they needed to address, especially at the end of last year. They need him.
Yeah, they definitely needed to address it. I mean, they didn't give that many passing yards up, but they were, I believe, tied for 22nd in most passing touchdowns given up, and the lowest, I think, touchdown to interception ratio. They had 6 total interceptions. So, I mean, Weddle hopefully will be a ball hawk back there for Baltimore, and I think Weddle might bring out the best of the former D that used to be in the Ravens. Maybe bringing back shades of Ed Reed, and I do like their cornerback grouping there. I like L'Jarius Webb. I like Jimmy Smith. I love the addition of Eric Weddle, and I think that could be a decent secondary there, at least for the first 3 guys. I mean, I think that it has potential there, and obviously we know the potential of guys like Terrell Suggs if he's healthy, and Elmas Dumerville if they're healthy, and obviously C.J. Mosley in the middle of the field. I think they can apply pressure, and hopefully these guys can turn the ball over and get it going the other way to Flacco. I think the Ravens, as long as they stay healthy, is the biggest part of this whole thing.
With them staying, and one guy who another guy needs to stay healthy. Terrell Suggs. They lost him season opener last year against the Broncos. Boom, torn Achilles. He was out for the year. And I mean, just having him back makes the defense even better.
Oh, is that much better? I mean, just hearing the name that he's healthy.
Just saying, oh, T. Suggs can play? Okay, cool, we're good to go.
But see, that's one of the biggest things. If you can't stay healthy, That's tough. And hopefully it's not one of the things for him because he's starting to get towards the end of his career. It's one of these things, okay, he's able to come back this year. He lost 6 games.
Instead of
something like you just hate seeing that.
Instead of Ray's last ride, it's soon to be, is this going to be Terrell's last ride?
Yeah.
And going to the Super Bowl. One guy I did want to bring up that I'm looking for putting a little bit of a spotlight. I want to see some big things out of him is C.J. Mosley, the Alabama linebacker, just playing on that inside right now. They have him on our lads playing next to Arthur Brown on the inside with Doomerville and Suggs on the outside. This team, like we said, they just need to stay healthy and get out of their own way. And they could possibly, this was a team that last year I'm like, oh, they're going to miss the playoffs as a 10-win team. I got them miss the playoffs right. They just did not win 10 games at all.
And then, I think the biggest thing that we need to look at is kind of the guy who probably scored the most points for Baltimore last year. Justin Tucker.
Love him.
So he's got to be strong again this year.
He's got some golden pipes, by the way. If you guys have not seen the video of him singing Ave Maria, I'm going to put that in the description. You got to check it out.
I don't think that has to do anything with his kicking talent, but obviously he is
just golden pipes.
He is one of the best kickers in the league, and I mean that's going to be huge to rely on for the Ravens. And I think this Ravens team has turned the corner. Again, the biggest question is just can they stay healthy? And if they can, I think we might be able to see them in playoff contention again. Because the thing about the AFC North is they all play each other tightly. I mean, even the Browns play the Steelers tightly every single game. These guys can be in the division, they can be in the wild card race as long as they stay healthy. And I think the Ravens are making the right moves, especially with Harbaugh at the helm. They've proven before that they can get to the big show, and I think they'll be able to, at least compete for it again as long as they stay healthy. And Baltimore, one thing that they can look forward to, hanging their hat on last year, 2 games against Pittsburgh, 2 wins.
And that's
couldn't beat Cincinnati. They beat Pittsburgh.